You may have missed this due to the NFL draft coverage last week, but the NCAA Football Rules Committee decided to revamp its overtime rules for this season in an effort to shorten games. Here's a look at the new rule. If a game reaches a fifth overtime, teams will run alternating two-point plays instead of starting another drive at the opponent's 25-yard line. There'll be a 2-minute rest period after the second and fourth overtimes, and the rules for the first 4 overtimes remain unchanged. Mike Greenberg is very upset about this. I'm going to let him have the floor, and then I'm going to tell you why you're wrong to be upset.
Listen, college football overtime is already contrived nonsense. Okay, that's like settling the Masters if they're even after 18 holes by going to a miniature golf course and playing putt-putt. And now they're going to put the ball on the 2-yard line, and this is how they're going to decide what potentially an important game. Put yourself in a circumstance. Let's live in a world where Alabama-Auburn at the end of the college football season, right up your alley over here, Rutledge, is to decide the SEC. What are they? The East or the West?
The West.
The West. And it's to decide that. And it is extraordinarily important. They had tie games in college football for 100 years. And to the best of my knowledge, I've done the research, no one died from that. Everyone survived the notion that a game could end in a tie in college football. Now they're so worried about it that they're going to put the ball on the 2-yard line and just say, let's decide the outcome of this one and have that carry all the weight in the world, the difference between a win, a loss, or a tie, by putting the ball on the 2. I have a better idea. Why don't you let the mascots arm wrestle? That strikes me as a more reasonable way of breaking a tie after 4 ridiculous overtimes in the first place. Laura, they've got to be kidding.
I'm here for the mascots arm wrestling, but one thing that you missed here is the fact that this doesn't happen unless the game gets to 5 overtimes. Let me give you some facts here. In the last 5 seasons, 4,326 FBS games, only 4 have reached a 5th overtime. You're all upset about something that's never going to happen. This was put into place because of the LSU A&M 7 overtime game from last season, which, by the way, was the first time ever that 2 ranked opponents even played in a game that went over 5 overtimes. So this never happens, and when it does happen, it doesn't matter. They have to do this to make sure that player safety is paramount. They don't want these players who are not being compensated, by the way, to end up having to play extra snaps that really are non-important.
Neek, this is illustrative of the larger issue, which is that the entire system is stupidity. Yeah. I've got a better idea. If the game is tied at the end of regulation, play a little more football, like they do in the National Football League. Play 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then if it's still tied, let the game end in a tie.
Yeah, I don't understand. So player safety is not their #1 concern. They might be rolling that out there, but it has nothing.
5 overtimes.
No, if they cared about it ended at the end of regulation and have it be a tie. Like having the players play even more free football, I think is part of the problem. If the problem is you have tie teams and makes it more difficult to figure out the playoffs, so what? We love difficult to figure out playoffs. That is fun. Let the game end when the game ends. If you can't finish it in regulation, go at home. Let the kids study for their chemistry exam.
You have to give the College Football Playoff Committee actual records that do not have ties in them.
Why?
Because
the NFL games end in ties all the time.
I get it. They're not actually having to compare metrics for who their top 4 teams are going to be. You're in college football, you are comparing, which the playoff era is fabulous because of this, but you are sitting there as people in a committee room trying to make a case for teams, and if you're looking at 2 teams that happen to be apples to apples, but one team had a game that ended in a tie and the other didn't, that's not going to work. They're not going to be able to do that.
I don't agree with that at all. A tie is a reasonable outcome of a sporting event.
No.
You can end it with a win, a loss, or a tie.
Who likes ties?
No one likes ties. But it is better than this. In my opinion, I would rather be able to judge a team based upon the game it actually played than put in some arbitrary, put the ball on the 2-yard line, and let's make a really important decision based on the outcome of that one play.
If it's a tie, you can say the teams are equal, or you can give a little edge to the away team. Okay. There you go. We decided.
I would like to point out that nobody at this set actually likes ties because neither one of you is wearing one.
Can I say one other thing, by the way? Hold on. Before you run the SportsCenter promo, one more thing very quickly. One more thing. There's a little game called soccer, right? They play it in all these other countries. Seems to be reasonably popular, right?
I knew you were going to make the soccer
argument. Word has reached me that people in every other country on planet Earth seem to like that game. Ties are a huge part of that sport, and it doesn't seem to have destroyed them.
And many of the leagues also don't even have a playoff. Blow it all up.